Okay, I hope I'm audible to all the students who are attending this lecture. In intermediate macroeconomics, we start with a new topic today. This is called Phillips curve. Okay, this is the Phillips curve. Formally, this is the second unit of intermediate macroeconomics part 1 course. Okay, so now in the last few lectures of macro, we have been talking about the labor market, the long run aggregate supply curve, the wage setting and the price setting equations. We had also talked about the medium run aggregate supply curve. So now Phillips curve will also take into account insights from the lectures we have done from the labor market till now. So what is Phillips curve? Phillips curve shows a diagrammatic relationship. It shows a diagrammatic relationship between the inflation and unemployment in the economy. Phillips curve shows the diagrammatic relationship between inflation and unemployment in the economy. So let's mathematically derive the Phillips curve. So derivation of the Phillips curve. So let's derive the Phillips curve. So consider the equation. Consider the equation of the medium run AS curve. Consider the equation of the medium run AS curve given by PT is equal to PTE into 1 plus mu into F as a function of U and Z. All students recall that this was the equation of the medium run AS curve. PT denotes the actual price level in time period T. PTE denotes the expected price level in time period T. Okay, when will this expectation be formed? This expectation will be formed in time period T minus 1. So when I talk about PTE, PTE denotes the price level which we expect in period T, and that expectation will be formed in period T minus 1. So I can write it like this. PTE is the expected price level expected price level in period T whose expectation is formed in period T minus 1. Okay, so this is our equation of the medium run AS curve. Now guys, mathematically I can express F as a function of U and Z as follows. I can write F as a function of U and Z as 1 minus alpha U plus Z. Okay, I can write, because all of us know, recall that W by P is a function of U and Z. This was our weight setting equation. All students can recall that this was our wage setting equation. Real wages share a negative relationship with unemployment and a positive relationship with Z, if all students can recall. So I can write f of u comma z as 1 minus alpha u, y minus sign, because f of u comma z shares a negative relationship with the unemployment rate, and plus z. Why plus z? Because real wages share a positive relationship with the catch-all variable, which captures unemployment insurance in our model. So our f of u comma z is 1 minus alpha u plus z. Why I have taken 1? 1 is taken for simplifying it further. Otherwise, there is no logic behind taking it. So I have specified the function as f of u comma z is 1 minus alpha u plus z. Okay, so the above equation, so I can write the above equation tells us that real wage W by P, which is equal to f of u comma z, shares a negative relationship with the unemployment rate and positive relationship with the catch-all variable z, which in our model captures unemployment insurance. Please note that this one I have taken only for mathematical simplicity. Otherwise, there is no particular logic behind it. So, what does alpha capture? What does alpha capture? So, alpha captures the strength of the effect of unemployment, which is denoted by U, on wages. Or I can say that alpha captures the degree of responsiveness, of the change in nominal wages with respect to the change in the unemployment rate. So how responsive nominal wages are to the unemployment rate in the economy is captured by the term alpha. If alpha is very high, it means tiny changes in the unemployment rate lead to large changes in nominal wages. It means if alpha is high, so I can say high alpha implies that nominal wages are very responsive to small changes in the unemployment rate. But lower alpha would imply that nominal wages are less responsive to given changes in the unemployment rate. So if alpha is high, it means small changes in unemployment rate will lead to large changes in nominal wages. And if alpha is of a smaller magnitude, it implies a given change in the unemployment rate will lead to small changes in nominal wages. All of us know from the previous lecture that the relationship between nominal wages and unemployment rate is inverse. Higher the unemployment rate, lower the bargaining power with the workers, lower the nominal wages. Lower the unemployment rate, higher the bargaining power with the workers, higher the nominal wages. That is why we have put a negative sign here. Because unemployment rate, U, and the nominal wages, which is F as a function of U and Z, share an inverse relationship. So now guys, we are going into some maths. I hope till here this is clear to all students. Let's do some maths now. So I am writing first. So PT is equal to PTE into 1 plus mu into F as a function of U and Z. What is this? This is the equation of the medium run AS curve. So dividing the above equation by PT minus 1. So PT upon PT minus 1 is equal to PTE into 1 plus mu into F of U comma Z upon PT minus 1. Okay. Now, guys, how can I write PT upon PT? So look at this. I can write PTE upon PT minus 1 as PTE minus PT minus 1 plus PT minus 1 upon PT minus 1. What I have done is in the numerator, I have added and subtracted PT minus 1. So I can further write it as PTE minus PT minus 1 upon PT minus 1 plus PT minus 1 upon PT minus 1. Now guys, what is this whole term? This is nothing but expected inflation, pi TE. What is inflation? Inflation is nothing but percentage change in prices. So PTE minus PT minus 1 upon PT minus 1 will give me expected inflation in time period T. Plus PT minus 1 upon PT minus 1 is 1. On similar grounds, consider PT upon PT minus 1. This I can write as, again subtracting and adding PT minus 1. So this becomes PT minus 1 upon PT minus 1 plus PT minus 1 upon PT minus 1. Now guys, what is this term? This term is nothing but pi T, actual inflation in time period T. PT minus 1 upon PT minus 1 is pi T, actual inflation in time period T, plus PT minus 1 upon PT minus 1 is 1. So now, how can I write, suppose this is my equation 1, suppose this is my equation 2. So equation 2 becomes, this term is nothing but 1 plus pi T. This term is nothing but 1 plus pi TE into 1 plus mu into F of U comma Z. So I hope till here all students are clear. Let us mark this as equation 3. All students are clear with equation 1. That's the equation of the medium run AS curve. All students are clear with equation 2. We have divided by PT minus 1. All students are clear with equation 3, which we got from star and star dash. Okay. PTE minus PT minus 1 upon PT minus 1 is pi TE, expected inflation in time period T. And PT minus 1 upon PT minus 1 is pi T, which is actual inflation in time period T. So now, how can I solve this further? So erasing the initial part. Let's erase this part. Okay, let's continue now. So I can write therefore 1 plus pi T upon 1 plus pi TE into 1 plus mu is equal to f as a function of u and z. What I have done is I have taken this term and this term in the denominator. So therefore 1 plus pi t upon, if I open up the brackets, 1 plus mu plus pi te plus mu pi te is equal to f as a function of u and z. So far, I hope it's clear to all students. Okay, so let's move forward. Erasing all this. Now, guys, look at this. Consider the term. So consider mu times pi te, which is very small, and we can ignore this term. Why? Because mu is also in percentage, pi t is also in percentage. If you multiply two percentages, you get a very small term. For example, suppose my mu is 2%, which is 0.02, and my inflation, expected inflation is 5%, which is 0.05. Then what will mu into pi t be? 0.02 into 0.05, which is 10.001, which is very small and you can ignore it. Okay, so I hope all students are clear. So we can ignore mu times pi t. It's a very small term. So therefore my equation becomes 1 plus pi t upon 1 plus mu plus pi te is equal to, guys, what is this? F of mu comma z is 1 minus alpha u plus z. Recall this. Now let's cross multiply. Let's cross multiply. So therefore 1 plus pi t is equal to 1 minus alpha u plus z into 1 plus mu plus pi te. So guys, when I open up the brackets again, multiplication of any two variables is very small, is of a smaller magnitude, and can be ignored. multiplication of any two variables is of a smaller magnitude and can be ignored. So guys, my 1 plus pi t becomes 1 plus mu plus pi te. Okay, 1 plus mu plus pi te. Similarly, minus alpha u into 1 will be minus alpha u, plus z into 1 will be z, plus mu into 1 will be mu. Okay, so this is what we get. This is the term we get once we multiply. So I am again showing you how we got this. 1 into 1, 1, 1 into mu, mu, 1 into pi te, pi te. Minus alpha u into 1, minus alpha u, minus alpha u into mu. Ignore. Minus alpha u into pi t, ignore. Very small term. Z into 1, z into mu, very small, ignore it. Z into pi t, again very small, ignore it. So guys, by mistake I have written mu 2 times, I am removing it. Now this is fine. So now you can see 1 and 1 cancels on both the sides. That is why I had taken 1 here. In the lecture, I had told you that 1 is taken for mathematical simplicity. It was taken so that eventually when we solve for Phillips curve, it gets cancelled on both sides. So now you have understood why I had taken 1. Because eventually it will get cancelled on both sides to make the calculation easy. Okay. So moving forward, so we get pi t is equal to pi te minus alpha u plus mu plus z. This is the equation of the Phillips curve. This is the equation of the Phillips curve. You can clearly see mathematically it is showing you the relationship between inflation and unemployment rate. Showing the relationship between inflation and unemployment rate. So the whole process, we started with the medium run AS curve, and from that, using the math, we have derived the relationship between inflation and the rate of unemployment. This gives us the equation of the Phillips curve. So I hope all students are clear. So if I quickly write it again, pi t is equal to pi t e minus alpha u plus mu plus z. Where all of us know pi t denotes the actual inflation in the time period t, pi te denotes the expected inflation in the time period t, u is the unemployment rate, mu is the markup or the degree of monopoly power, z denotes other factors. Okay, so now for the time being, let us assume that inflation is equal to 0 in the economy. For the time being, let us assume that inflation For the time being, let us assume that inflation is equal to 0 in the economy. Okay, so now let's look at the factors affecting inflation. So guys, since inflation is 0 in the economy, therefore this implies an increase in the price level will lead to an increase in inflation, which is pi. See guys, ideally if you look at it, inflation is continuous and persistent rise in prices. For example, suppose my price level in period t minus 1 is 100, and suppose initially my inflation in period t minus 1 is 5%. Now if price rises to 105, will I say that inflation has gone up? Suppose in period t minus 1 my price is 100 and inflation also in period t minus 1 is 5%. Suppose in period t price becomes 105, price has gone up. Will I say that inflation has also gone up? No, because if you calculate inflation in period t, that will be 105 minus 100 upon 100 into 100, which is still 5%. So even though your price has gone up, your inflation is still the same, because inflation does not mean a one-time increase in price. Understand this. Inflation does not mean a one-time increase in price. It means continuous and persistent rise in prices. It means continuous and persistent rise in prices. But inflation would mean a one-time increase in price only when we assume that inflation initially is equal to 0. Guys, if I assume that inflation initially instead of 5% is 0, then a one-time increase in price will lead to an increase in inflation. That is why I have assumed that for the time being inflation is 0 in the economy, so that increase in price level would lead to increase in inflation. But guys, you all should understand that a one-time increase in price is not inflation. Inflation is continuous and persistent increase in prices. But to make our model simple, we are assuming that inflation currently is 0, which means an increase in price level will lead to an increase in inflation. So I hope all students have understood that. Now the last thing for the day, then we stop. I am writing the equation of the Phillips curve again. So this is the equation of the Phillips curve. So let's look at the factors affecting pi t. Factors affecting inflation, pi t. So guys, the first factor, expected inflation. So when pi te goes up, this implies people are expecting the inflation people are expecting the inflation to increase in the future, which implies workers today will be willing to sign contracts, at higher nominal wages, which implies higher cost of production for the firms, which implies higher prices. And all we have just discussed right now is that higher prices would imply higher inflation. So I can say that pi t and pi te share a positive relationship. I hope this is clear to all students. Second point, mu. Mu denotes markup or the degree of monopoly power. If mu goes up, this implies firms are exercising their monopoly power. Firms are exercising their monopoly power, which implies they will produce less. They will produce less output because a monopolist produces less output and charge higher prices. And guys, higher prices would imply higher inflation. So if mu or the degree of monopoly power goes up, firms will start exercising their monopoly power. They will produce less output and charge higher prices, which will lead to high inflation. So I can say that mu and pi t also share a positive relationship. Third, z. So the example we had taken, suppose unemployment insurance goes up. Suppose unemployment insurance goes up. This implies, all of us know the chain, right? Bargaining power with the workers go up. If unemployment insurance goes up, they know that even if they are unemployed, they are still getting the unemployment insurance. So bargaining power with the workers go up. They would be willing to sign contracts at higher nominal wages which implies higher cost of production for the firms, which implies higher prices, and higher prices will imply higher inflation. So I can say that Z and pi t also share a positive relationship. And guys, the last relation, mu. Sorry, not mu, u. Let me correct it. The last relation, u, which captures the unemployment rate in the economy. So if the unemployment rate, u in the economy goes up, bargaining power with the workers fall. Bargaining power with the workers fall, which implies they would be settling for lower nominal wages. They would be willing to settle for lower nominal wages, which implies lower cost of production for the firms, which implies lower prices. Okay, which implies lower prices, which implies in our example, since inflation initially is taken as 0, lower prices would imply lower inflation. So I can say that higher the unemployment rate, lower the inflation. So the unemployment rate and inflation share a negative relationship. So I can say, therefore, pi t and u share a negative relationship. And since pi t and u share a negative relationship, therefore we can say that Phillips curve is downward sloping. Phillips curve is downward sloping because of chain 4. Because of chain 4, the Phillips curve is downward sloping. Because the relationship between unemployment and inflation is negative. Higher the unemployment, lower the bargaining power with the workers. They will be willing to settle for lower nominal wages, lower cost of production for the firms, lower prices and lower inflation, and vice versa. So our Phillips curve would be downward sloping. Now this is where I stop in the lecture today for macro. I will not be continuing further in the lecture. In the coming lectures, we will talk about the various kinds of Phillips curves. We will talk about the various kinds of Phillips curve in the coming lectures. Original Phillips curve, which existed before 1970s, the modified Phillips curve. So various kinds of Phillips curve we'll be discussing in the coming lectures. Today, what we have done is I have introduced the topic of Phillips curve to you, the derivation of the Phillips curve, okay, mathematically as well as using the chains as well. So this is where I stop in the lecture. Any doubt, you can unmute your mic and ask, or you can give a call or mail me your doubts at divineschooloфeconomics@gmail.com. So if there are any doubts, I'm open for them.